Welcome to Focus Garage. Under is here with Brad. We're in his garage. You guys know him from 10 car, 11 car, 13 car in Chicago. Who knows? Who's counting?
I have no idea.
But he reduced his fleet now because we had a lot more Fieros here and a couple more Saabs. It's not that many anymore. We wanted to take you guys with me today. We're going to work on the Fiero project that we've been working on with the Saab engine. What we have done is we actually put the Saab engine into the Fiero.
Today what we want to do is we want to make brackets so that we can use most of the Fiero engine mounts on the Saab engine. That's the goal for today.
That's what we're going to do. And we're going to drop down the subframe and start welding and give you guys a little bit of what's happening with this project. When we started this project, we started with one 88 automatic Fiero and one Saab 900 SE turbo, and throughout, that was like in December, maybe November or something like that.
It might have been
last year. And throughout the year we acquired two more Fieros. One is a 87, the other one is a 88.
Both manuals,
both GTs. And then we got two more Saab 900 SE turbos. One was red that I show you guys. We disassembled that and it's gone. 87 Fiero is also disassembled and gone. We're using all the good parts on the 88. So it was a package deal. We had to get the 87. We didn't want it, but
it turns out Fiero people buy pretty much every single part of the car. They're the Miata people of the Pontiac generation.
Yeah, and I mean, no part of the Fiero was wasted. Everything was like used. So just like Native Americans, we used every part of the
buffalo.
Buffalo, yeah. So today we're gonna, like you said, we're gonna do the engine mounts so we can 100% secure the Saab engine into the Fiero cradle, and we're gonna figure out some of the exhaust routing so it helps with our engine mount.
Yeah.
And
one thing a lot of people ask me when I was working on this is, how are you going to get the CV shafts to work? It actually turns out that the Fiero, the manual Fieros, had a Getrag 282 transmission, and the Saab uses a Getrag F25. They both have a 34 wheel spline and a 34 transmission spline and 33 at the hub. So I pulled apart a couple different generation Saab CV shafts, and I was able to get the passenger side. That was the difficult one to work.
Well, I mean, we were surprised. We didn't know that until we're like, all right, let's see if it's gonna pop in, and it's like, boop. I was like, wow, we don't have to do much about this anymore.
Custom half shafts, my ass. I'm not doing any of that.
So yeah, he's been actually doing a lot of research on the half shafts and trying to figure out the perfect length, and I think we kind of dialed in what we want, and anyone is trying to do this, we'll give you guys some of the information that we found out, and you guys can do it too. This is a very easy swap.
It's actually pretty easy.
And I am surprised not a lot of people are doing this. They're trying to shove a V8 in there. Yeah, it makes whatever, 400 horsepower or maybe like 350 horsepower, but you can't fit a turbo in there. You can't really fit a supercharger in there. It's just like a very cramped engine bay, and this 2-liter turbo goes in there pretty well. And like, you can make a lot of horsepower with a 2-liter turbo. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna make a lot of horsepower. We're gonna go 200 miles an hour and a half mile. That's our goal. So no,
no, that's not gonna happen.
We're thinking about like 250, about 250 on the racetrack.
250 to 275. Any more than that, and probably just going to be consuming more fuel.
Yeah. This is going to be a 24-hour Lemons car. So if you guys haven't followed it from the beginning, so fuel is most important thing, and also to be able to continue racing this car instead of blowing up. So reliability is pretty important too.
So like some of the critical points on the Fiero, the wheel bearings in the rear are known for being like just completely falling apart. So I'm gonna have a different fix to that later. The other thing is the fuel tank's only 12 gallons. So the common 24-hour Lemons race on Saturday will have 8 hours of racing. If you can't do 2-hour stints, you may find yourself doing additional fuel stops, which is just losing you laps.
Yeah.
If you were actually trying to win.
I mean, it's very competitive out there, and it's just like fueling and not breaking down is like two category that could make you win your class.
Yeah.
You know,
if you can do a 3-hour stint and do 3 stints in an 8-hour period, that's going to be a lot better than a V8 with a 12-gallon fuel cell or fuel tank.
Gone.
Yeah. 45-minute stints, you're going to have to stop like 8-9 times that day. Or you could get a $4,000 custom fuel cell to fit in the front of this thing, which is
$500
Yeah.
But I don't want to get into that much. But there was a Viper engine with Rolls-Royce, and that guy was not able to do like more than an hour. I think he was consuming so much fuel, and he had fuel cell in there. So anyway, we'll take you guys with us, show you guys how good of a welder Brad is with his skills and all that stuff, and no pressure.
Okay, so the original mount, one being here and one mounted on the transmission, and it sort of let the whole engine pivot towards what is the back. And then there was a sort of torque mount damper, which I don't have one sitting here, in the back. So the whole engine sort of rested on that, and that was sort of the 3-point triangle that it used to support itself. The Fiero has 2 mounts, one on either side of the transmission, and then it had one that looked like this guy that went directly under the front of the engine. Now that only fit because it was the V6, so the 6 cylinders only three cylinders long there. It doesn't fit ours. So what we sort of came up with this idea is we're gonna kind of go half and half. So ideally we would be again in front, but we have the oil cooler here, so we can't really go there. This bracket puts the engine mount way up high, so that's really no good either. Right here, right over the top of the subframe, that would be pretty ideal, but again, that blocks the oil cooler. So what we're gonna do, our first try, we made a bunch of angled brackets and gussets and tried to use the original, this is where the AC compressor goes, and we kind of tried to use this area, but all of our brackets ended up looking pretty stupid, to be honest, because from this strong point on the subframe, we were going to build out, and then from this, we're going to build out too, so we ended up with this sort of arcing out around the oil cooler, and it indeed looked pretty stupid. So I came up with this idea yesterday. We're going to take this big casting, which again is aluminum, it's light, it's strong, and we're going to use it as a spacer and mount out here where we can just go straight down into something strong for the engine mount. And this is the original Fiero engine mount, and this can set here or maybe one notch up. Since this is not a Harbor Freight jack stand, I can still use it. So this is going to be a lot stronger. Now, the cool thing is I bought a vertical mill off of Facebook Marketplace a couple months ago, and I'm not good at using it, but I like using it. So what we're going to do is the 2 holes that we have marked with the marker fluid for the machining, we're going to bring the whole bracket down to that thickness. It's about 1 3/4 inches, and this mount, we're going to bring that one in as well, so we have one flat plane. This mount and this mount for the AC we don't need. We're going to machine those guys off, and then this guy with the original Saab engine mount, we're just going to take that whole gusset off, so it's not completely impossible to change the serpentine belt just like it is on the Saab 900. So we're going to take this guy over to the mill and see what I can do. Really need to get this just the tip.
Where's your density?
Just below that notch. No reason to cut all the way through if I don't have to. There we go. Okay, this is the right side, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's talking about like fine milling versus conventional.
This is the hook for the AC. Alright, so we finished up with the engine mount. So what we did, this guy mounts on here, and we machined off all the extra parts so that this hole, and this hole are all in one plane. And that's what you see here behind the cardboard. And by doing that, we were able to get a lot shorter of mounts, and we're just using a stock Fiero mount here. This is the mount that's supposed to go underneath the engine. And as you can see, we've done some modifications. There was an exhaust hump on this side that we took off because it was not allowing us to get our engine as low as we wanted. And it was hitting the oil cooler. So I'm going to cap that off, box it in, and then make 2 runners and a platform where this engine mount will sit, and then from the aluminum spacer plate that we have now, 2 quick gussets and a plate, and then I'll probably finish up with just one little piece of like box square tubing just to keep this guy from swaying, and we're pretty confident that that's what it's going to look like.
So we're making more progress here. We have a lot of tools on the ground. But I wanted to show you guys what Brad was talking about earlier with the engine on. So show you guys a better view of it. So there was a engine mount right here come out this far for the V6, where the V6, like the nose of the V6 was attached there. So we cut that off so we can lower the engine a couple more inches down. It was interfering with the oil pan here. So we cut it with a plasma cutter, and then kind of grind it down. So it does look like a little messy there, but there are no sharp edges, so oil pan is safe. So another thing we're doing here is that we are creating a plate. We're going to create the plate here, and then the back of it, and we're going to box it off. So that way this portion is going to stay strong here. And then we're going to create this hump area here over there for the exhaust. So that way we're keeping the OEM kind of arrangement here. And yeah, so we did build the metal plates for this portion of the
It's underneath your feet.
no, I'm talking about the
Engine
engine mount. So we built these plates for the engine mount that goes into that area, and also the other plate here. So, and then created the gussets as well. So we're just creating the last 2 pieces over there to box it off, and then we can weld these bad boys in. So we're very close. We're gonna put the engine back in once we get everything boxed off over here. Put the engine back in, and then put it in the car and tack weld it, and then get it out and just weld the rest of it. So yeah, we're getting closer. It does take a lot of time because we have to measure it. We change our ideas a couple of times when we're doing the engine mounts, because whichever works is the best. What we're trying to create here is the fastest way to do an engine swap. Because when we are racing, when something goes on in the engine, something messed up, we can just drop the subframe, just 4 bolts, drop it, and then put the second subframe back in, and then go out racing. So we're trying to do this engine swap in like 30 minutes, less than 30 minutes.
It's the goal.
Yeah, that's why we're taking a lot of time to create these engine mounts. We need to make sure that they're not on the way of anything. So yeah, we're gonna cut the last two pieces here for the cap, and then we're gonna weld these. So So here's the boxed up frame. This is our great weld job. This guy right here.
Really okay.
So this is actually the first time we ever weld it with a 220 volt. It was kind of like a learning curve because it's not the same as the 110.
It's a lot easier than the 110.
Yeah, but we had to adjust the speed of the wire and voltage and all that. So that's a engine mount that we're gonna put there. We're gonna weld that, and we're gonna weld gussets as well. So let me show you guys the other side of the box up. So it's like welded up in 3 spots, and we left that edge over here to give us a little bit more help with the installing that. Welding that, and the frame had some of the holes, like there were holes, pinholes and stuff like that. So we wanted to make sure that there's no pinholes, so it doesn't rust or anything like that. So we're gonna paint this as well, so that doesn't rust. And we need to weld that spot right there. A little bit more welding, and that was a.
It's the old engine mount.
Yeah, that's the old engine mount that we moved.
So one annoying thing that we're gonna run into now that we've taken this hump that was here out, we're probably going to add the exact same hump, but over here where the Saab's exhaust prefers to travel.
Yeah, so the way we're gonna do that is we're gonna put a 5-inch hole saw, whatever, something like that. So give us a little bit of, because our exhaust is gonna be 3-inch, right?
Yeah.
So, and then we will probably box that underneath the hole where we cut it. We put another metal piece like that, just hammer it in there, and just give us a little bit arc there to help us out with the weight.
It's going to look pretty much exactly like what we had, just in the center. So the same thing, big flare, like you said, a notch out of it, a hump on top, and then something on the side to sort of build in that space.
So the weird thing about this frame is that we have to flip it over, but it's really hard to flip it over right now. So like that section is boxed up, this section is boxed up, this section is also boxed up. Like, so there's like 4 plates all around that section, and this section. But this was empty. So
It's just a C channel.
yeah, it's a C channel. And also, like, if you look at this frame rail right here, that's also like 4-corner. So that was weird. Maybe
I guess the strength is probably coming from the chassis at that point as well. And the main point is this big C loop, and this is sort of.
I was gonna say that just like
it's
so
just
it doesn't twist or anything like that.
Sort of a strut tower brace.
But yeah, it's coming along pretty well. We're gonna call it a day.
Attitude, it's not.
So we finished the torque mount, or some call it dog bone mount over here, and that concludes our tacking up the engine mount for the 900 engine into the Fiero. So we have one over here, which we used the bosses that coming from the head to attach, and then we use another bolt right here under the tensioner pulley, and we created a bracket, and then we have 2 1-inch square stocking coming into contact with this bracket that we created. So we're going to finish tacking this up, and then moving on to the transmission side, we have this mount right here that uses the Saab the transmission mount, and then the Fiero transmission mount on the chassis side. And then going over here, we tacked into the bell housing and transmission, and again using a Fiero transmission mount over there to secure the transmission. So transmissions hold up in 2 different mounts, and then the engine has another mount over there on the other side. We can walk over here. It's kind of hard to see, but if you look down there, you can see that there's a wood, and then there's a plane coming out. That was the one that we were working on to hold the engine. So there's 3 solid points and then 1 torque one. So this engine shouldn't go anywhere and shouldn't move that much, and we're going to install urethane bushings here. So that's going to be a solid, close to solid mount there.
Propane kit's like $20.
Yeah. So, and looking at how it sits inside the engine bay, we will be able to close the hood. Fingers crossed, I think.
90% sure.
And the closest thing we have to the hinge is the power steering pump. Even though we don't have a power steering, we still have to put the pump to be able to run the serpentine belt. In the future, we are planning on replacing that with either idler pulley or smaller pulley or something like that.
Yeah, so I think we talked about this and then lost the video. The tensioner actually has a pulley on it that has a bearing already pressed into it, and all it is just a bolt that sits through it. So you know, after making engine mount brackets, it shouldn't be that hard to make a bracket to line up just 1 bolt hole and a nut to hold that bearing, and that, so we should be able to get down from what looks like about a 5-inch pulley down to that little 2-inch pulley.
Yeah.
And then
that should free up some horsepower.
Or whatever, yeah. More importantly, we'll get that clearance back to the hood mount. So we're probably, so if I remember correctly, the hood hinges actually bolt in here and then sit off to the side. So that would probably create a problem. So what I'm probably going to do is mount an adapter plate to offset this side. The other side's fine. And then an adapter to the hood. Just to get that all out of here and out of the way. So,
which should be pretty easy to weld because it's not really a structure or anything like that.
No,
we should be able to bang that out pretty easily.
The only forces back here are going to be vacuum. So,
yeah,
you know, even if you didn't have a latch on the trunk, at the highest speed of racing with no spoiler on the back, it's just enough vacuum that it'll like open the trunk a little bit. But since they fold forward, we won't do a Lemons Classic, which is the car left and I still have the hood pins in my hand. So both of these flip forward, so pretty safe. So
yeah,
I think the worst thing that out of all of this that we've found so far, I'm probably gonna have to make some sort of custom mount. So typically on the 900s I just use a 1/2-inch extension to go into the torque mounts. But you know, it's nothing a quick jog in a either, you know, buy a cheap 1/2-inch extension and then just hit it with a torch and bend it out of the way, or just make something with the welder.
Yeah, so hopefully we don't have to change the serpentine belt that often. Serpentine belt.
Yeah.
Oh, another thing that we didn't talk about this is that the fuel rail. So this is the 900 fuel rail that came with this engine. We are using the 9000 intake manifold because it gives us so much space here. The 900 intake uses this is where the throttle body on the 900 uses it right here, and that butterfly hits over here, and if you break that, you know, if the engine moves, it will contact this part and then it might break your throttle and you have a disabled car.
And you know, in addition to that, so the runners are about 2 inches longer, and then that piece was landing, you know, right here, actually where this little hump was, which is kind of funny. But you know, the throttle for the 900 was going this way, so all of the cables and all that crap wanted to be pulled this way, and that, you know, our throttle cable's right here. We really don't have.
We would have to come in from the trunk,
like all the way around and loop it around. You know, we'd have to get a longer throttle cable, which we'll probably have to do anyways. But you know, if we can avoid it for now. So, while we're standing here, let's do a first test fit. We haven't actually
we're gonna
seen
do
this
this live now. So the problem with this is that we didn't really talk about it. So this is sitting here, and we have the pressure regulator right by the bolt, and it's like kind of like hitting it, and we don't want it that close. This is fuel line. We don't want it that close. So we looked up in the internet, and we found that 9000 is using this kind of style, and so let's put it in. My side is in.
Little wiggles. It bolts right down right there. We don't have to make any extra brackets.
Yep.
What's the clearance to that look like?
I mean, we have like 1/16. I mean 1/8 instead of 1/16.
Okay. So well, on this bracket, I actually designed it a different way, and Ander didn't cut it exactly to the shape that I made, which was actually pretty phallical. And so now we have this point here. So, you know, when we have these brackets off, we'll probably just hit it with the grinder and just trim this guy down.
I mean,
a little bit more penis
I left it like that is because we have enough meat left on the bracket to shave it down later on.
We can always trim more off, but adding more back on is a whole different.
But yeah, I mean, looking at this actually looks pretty good. We have the fuel line, return line coming in here.
Yeah, we'll probably take this clamp off and spin this guy. So there should be some vacuum lines over here that it wants to connect to. So
yeah, this will work. And actually, we have enough space.
Is it really that much different?
For the oil fill line too.
Yeah, that's it. It's all the way in. So
yeah,
look at us go.
So this was a great win actually.
Pretty close.
Yeah, this is actually pretty. It's longer than the 900 one.
It's got to just be like, oh yeah, it's just a little, just a little bit, right?
Like
nothing, like an eighth of an inch.
Yeah, maybe, but it helps. Every bit of it helps.
Every inch helps.
So enough babbling. This is gonna be a really long video. Us fiddling, you guys. I mean, fiddle with the engine mounts and stuff. What we're gonna do next is drop this subframe, finish welding of the brackets, finalize the brackets, take some measurements for the second subframe that we're gonna create, and then we are gonna plumb the engine. Well, this is not gonna be the engine that's gonna be in the car. This is gonna get rebuilt. We have a running good engine over there.
We need to do three things to it. One, add the 9000 intake to it. Two, there's a pretty crazy oil pan gasket leak that I was trying not to overdo it. I underdid it, so it leaks. Great.
Yeah. And then the hydraulic for the clutch that we were gonna swap. But then that engine is gonna go in here. We're gonna do the fuel lines, and then the coolant lines, which are fuel lines. Ow, man, that thing is sharp. Fuel lines are over here, and then coolant lines are coming
left and right side. Yeah.
Left and right side. It's like perfect for the water pump here, and then the exit over there. So it's like really good line up here, and then we should put some 12 volt to it and then get it started. So we are very close.
Closer than it looks.
Closer than it looks, yeah. I mean, yeah. Thanks for watching, guys. See you guys on the next video, and hopefully that video update will be sooner than this one.